So were you looking to go through the same individual that your brother did for the trust, or you
No,
were?
I don't know that. I mean, the guy's touting me. I mean, he's wanting me, like he's wanting me to refer in people and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a little excessive. Like my business partner owned like 30 of the condos, and he owns a medical sales company. He's been extremely successful. Well, he got his trust for like $6,000. So I don't understand what makes him so different. And this was mainly on all his. He owns way more oil and gas than I do. So that's to cover a lot of his assets there. Um, so no, that's not. I haven't done anything where the trust is concerned.
Okay. So the trust, you can get a good trust for like $1,600. Okay. Um, we do a trust with a law firm for 1,600 or 1,800 bucks. I forgot exactly how much she charges.
Okay.
But she does a consultation with you. She figures out your assets, and then she designs the trust for you. And then she sends out the paperwork for your review, and also for you to get it notarized and signed. And then goes back to her, and then she puts the trust into place. Um, so I'm assuming that all of your assets, your real estate assets, are underneath a corporation, like each.
No, they're not. I'm exposed. A lot of them are under my personal name, or some of them are under a corporation that my brother owns. Um, and then some of them under my business partner's name. Some of them, I mean, it's scattered around. Some of them's under a corporation that my business partner owns, so it's a mess. And I'm 62 years old, and I got to get this cleaned up.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about it. So, do you know where do you live?
In Arlington, Texas,
Okay.
the
So,
Dallas Fort Worth area.
yeah, and having the holding companies own the real estate. Have you heard of that before?
Sure. And I
Okay.
know, some people like a friend of mine's a professor and like he does real estate and economics. He has his PhD and now he owns a lot of his real estate individually. So it splits out the liability in case you get sued or any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where you're at right now is that you said it, you're exposed. Um, and you know, hopefully nothing happens, but you want to protect yourself and you want to protect yourself underneath limited liability corporations for each individual real estate property that you own. And let's pull up this whiteboard here. All right, so all your property, is it all scattered throughout the country, or is it in Texas,
Most of
or?
it's in Arlington. I have some property in Oklahoma.
Okay, so we got some in Oklahoma. There we go. We got some in Texas. Okay. So each individual company that you own, each individual real estate property that you own in Texas should have their own LLC, separate.
Okay.
Okay. The same thing for the Oklahoma properties as well. So if you got two properties in Oklahoma, they should be LLCs separately. Okay. And in there, okay, from here, you would have a holding company, and this holding company can be a C corporation. And it's also recommended that, because you have so much real estate, that you really start moving it
Can
around.
you hold just 1 second for me, please?
I'm so sorry. Lee said she would like for us to go with her.
Okay, what time is it? I'm in a meeting right now.
I'm sorry. Have to it be at 3.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. So the two companies that you really want to look at when you're dealing with, holding companies and corporations would be Wyoming and Nevada, especially for real estate. These are the two main, uh, these are the two main states that you want to put your corporations in.
Okay, why do a
Uh,
lot of people do Delaware corporations?
Yeah, so Delaware used to be the place to go. But Delaware has now changed some of their laws. And now the best companies are going to be Wyoming and Nevada. Wyoming has zero corporate tax. So there's no corporate tax inside of Wyoming. And Nevada, there's a small corporate tax inside of Nevada. Okay. Uh, but it's not as it's not as large as Texas.
Okay.
Okay. It's a very minimal corporate tax that they charge. So there's 0% in Wyoming and a small corporate tax in Nevada. And usually people that have real estate, they'll go towards Nevada. And because Nevada has better protection and well, it seems like it's a little bit delayed, but has better protection when it comes to real estate for real estate owners. So there is a process that, if you get sued and you are in this scenario here, right? And you don't have any LLCs, well, the process is someone to sue you is just to bring you to small claims court or bring you to, just to sue you, right? Now, when you're set up like this, when you have these entities, maybe you've got this entity here, this entity's here, you've got a few entities in Nevada. Let's say that these are Oklahoma, these are Wyoming based. So what happens is now when someone wants to sue you in the state of Texas, right? This property is owned by a Wyoming LLC. So in order for someone to sue you, they have to file paperwork in Texas, and they also have to file paperwork in Wyoming. Okay, so now they have to sue you in both places.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
so it's an additional cost to that person to find an attorney in that additional state. Okay, so that's where the protection comes in. Now, Wyoming has a creditor protection. So in Wyoming, they allow you, the business owner, to be anonymous. So as long as you have a law firm representing you there, or you have a representative there in Wyoming, okay, you can take your name completely off of all of the corporate paperwork. So now, in order for a lawyer to find you, it's going to be very difficult for them to find you personally, Ron, in that paperwork because it doesn't exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what they'd do is they'd go to deed records and look and see that corporation.
Correct.
And then they'd try to go, just like in Texas, I can tell who owns the corporation. I think it tells me what percentage. I've done it a few times. But
Yep.
you're saying in there they can't do that. So they just know that XYZ owns this property. They don't know the name. They don't know what the percentages are or anything.
Correct. Correct.
Now, aren't you
Okay.
creating a accounting nightmare though? If you have 40 different properties and don't you have to do 40 different corporate tax returns?
Yep. So you are creating a nightmare, and that's kind of where where you want to choose a good accountant. We don't do accounting, but this is where you want to choose a good accountant that's going to set you up properly. And maybe you can put two of these properties under the one LLC. Okay, one company can own two properties. Okay, to kind of eliminate that that accounting nightmare that pops up. Okay, but that's where you want to really sit down with your accountant and determine which is the best strategy and how much of these
Yeah, that
houses
makes
do.
sense. Because I think it'll cost me. I mean, I do have an accountant, and then I have a guy that's a good friend of mine that is brilliant where accounting's concerned. He's really good at QuickBooks, and he could set up probably the corporations and all that. I I mean, it's minimal money to set a corporation up. It's like once you've done, it's not that hard.
Correct. Yeah, and then it's just, keeping up with the expenses on a yearly basis for that corporation. But the value in that is Wyoming, there's really no filing, right? There's a file, you have to file, right? But there's no state tax. There's no state corporate tax in Wyoming.
So how would that help you? Let's say you made $10,000 on a Pacific property and it's in that corporation.
Yeah,
Would it just pass to your
yeah,
active income?
yeah, passes through your personal return. So now you're just paying federal tax.
Okay, but on a lot of cases, now what if what if that corporation, let's say I didn't take that $10,000,
Yeah.
then what?
So it really depends if you're a C corp, right? C corps are different than what we're talking about is, a holding.
Oh, you're talking about
company
LLC that'll just always pass to I get it.
Yeah. So what happens here in this setup, right? And let's scroll down here to this setup, right? So let's say we've got these houses here. Let's say just for example purposes, we got these LLCs. So what happens is you want these LLCs here because they're in Oklahoma and Texas, right? That's where these LLCs are going to be landed, because most likely those states are going to require you to have a registered LLC in that state, because that's where that place of business is, right? So you have to have an LLC in those states. However, the holding company, which is in Wyoming, owns 3 of these LLCs.
Now, why do you have to have the LLC? Like, you couldn't have a Wyoming corporation just own them directly without a corporation or somebody owning them in Oklahoma?
So you have to go with the state. So I'm in Florida. So Florida wouldn't allow me to operate, doesn't allow outside companies to operate in its state without being registered.
Okay.
So as an alien company, you have to register with the state of Florida.
Okay.
Right? And seeing how the property is located in that state, most likely your state is going to want you to register in their state because they want their money. The state wants their money. That's what it's all about. You know what it is, right?
But like in Texas, we have no state income tax, but in Oklahoma, they do.
Yeah, just like Florida, no state income tax in Florida either. But you still have to register your company in the state of Florida if you're doing business in Florida.
Right. Okay.
Right? So the same thing. So if that's the case with your states, this is worst case scenario, right? That these companies are registered in the state. However, on the state paperwork is your holding company, ABC Corporation. And ABC Corporation owns this LLC, owns this LLC, and this LLC. And because it's in Wyoming, well, because the ABC Corporation owns these LLCs, well, they're governed by Wyoming law, right? So now anybody that wants to sue you in Oklahoma has to go to Wyoming, because Ron doesn't own the, FG LLC. ABC Corporation owns FG LLC.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So, that's where you have, and you can have several holding companies. You can have another holding company in the state of Nevada, right? So now you have another holding company that's governed by the state of Nevada, and this company owns 3 real estate or 4 real estate properties, right? And those can be your properties or however you want to set that up. Okay. But you want to protect yourself, and yeah, it's that's the cost of doing business. If you want to be in real estate, you want to protect yourself against creditors, is you have to set yourself up correctly and put yourself in LLCs and protection purposes.
Understood.
Right? You don't want somebody coming and taking what you worked for your whole life, right?
Right.
Right. So setting up these different corporations is the goal. Now, ABC Corporation that's in Wyoming, ABC Corporation has no state tax, no state corporate tax, right? So all you're doing is just filing in the state, and that's about a minimum $50 to file in the state of Wyoming every year to keep your corporation active, right? And obviously up to date with the filings with the state, but they don't charge any corporate tax. So that if it's a C corp, it's not passed through your personal tax. It's taxed as a corporation on the federal level, right? But if
Okay.
you have an S corp, well, now that's going to transfer to your personal taxes, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So then, once again, that would be an accounting thing, right? That'd be a conversation with your accountant. How can we properly structure myself, number one, to pay the least amount of taxes, right?
Yeah, so
Number
that does make
two,
total sense. I invested in a company in Oklahoma, and basically they set it up as a C corporation, and there was a lot of losses on it, but then it doesn't carry forward over to your personal tax return. Then they lost a lot more money, and we ended up getting in a litigation with them. It was a cannabis company, and it was quite large, and they were doing millions of dollars. But you don't always know what's what. And my point is, it's sitting there in that C corporation, and unless you can offset it with another company or like you can't just buy a company to harvest the tax losses. And so, in my opinion, they shouldn't have never set it up as a C corporation. You want the losses to pass over personally, unless you're a huge corporation, is the best way I understand it.
yep, correct. So in addition to that, the value in this
I'll be back.
is number one is the protection that it provides.
Right.
Number two is the anonymity, right? You're not going to be on the paperwork. Your name is not going to be there, right? Number three is the fact that you get creditor protection, right? Anybody tries to sue you, okay, you get creditor protection because how your accountant should set this up, okay, you're a smart man. How your accountant should set this up is each individual LLC, how your holding company makes money is each individual LLC pays the holding company a fee to operate, a management fee. So these LLCs every month are transferring money to the holding company in Nevada and Wyoming as management fees, and that's your profit. You're taking your profits and you're pushing them up into your holding companies. So your Texas companies, your LLCs, your real estate properties should really be broke. Shouldn't really be making a profit. So anybody that comes to sue you in Texas for this Texas property, well, you're going to be like, well, that Texas property has no money, right? They're
Right.
underground, right? We pay management fees to the holding company, right?
Right.
And that's where the profit share, that's where all the protection is. All the assets should be in the holding company. Okay. And that's how your accountant should set it up. Okay, management fees to the holding company. And if you want, I do have access to a very good law firm that sets you up, and I'm gonna put their website in the chat.
Now, do you have somebody? Is this the one you told me about setting up the trust and all that? Do you have somebody
These guys don't.
specifically you
I
like to
do.
work with?
Yeah. So first, I'm going to send you the ones where they properly set you up with the LLCs. Okay. And what you can do is you can schedule a consultation with them, a 15-minute consultation with them, and pick their brain. And then also, they have a lot of good information on their website that you can grab. Okay. And
Yeah,
then
but
you
I'm
can
sure
decide
you
where you
have.
wanna go.
I don't know if you might not be able to disclose it, but I'm sure you have, if a corporation's filed, aren't those documents filed at the state level too? Isn't the full
Yep,
document filed at the state level? So in other
correct.
words, if you could just tell me of somebody, let's say in Florida, that you've done business with or whatever, and you might not be able to do that, but I mean, I can research all that stuff myself as well, right?
Yep. So I'll throw this lawyer in the chat, corporatedirect.com.
Okay.
He handles a lot of real estate clients. He's a great that's a great law firm to deal with. They're pretty pricey when it comes to setting up your structure. They charge about $700 or $800 to set it up. But they do a rock solid job, and I would recommend that you would make that investment into your business. Um,
To set
at
up the
least,
whole structure, you're saying?
yeah, well, each individual LLC they would charge you $700 to $800.
Well,
But
because
what
the
you can
cost
do,
is like here, the cost would be 400 and something just at the state level, right? So they're making the difference.
yeah, correct. So what you can do is, what I tell people is, look, if you don't want to put the money up front, at least put the money up front for one or two of them and figure out the wording and everything that they're doing. So then you can go and do it
Well,
yourself.
then you could just start moving. If you wanted protection, it wouldn't be the same level of protection, but you could move 10 properties in one LLC or, and then in the futures, you can split it down once you have your structure set up.
Right. You can then you can then
I mean, I
separate
think
it.
it carries more weight when a law firm sets something up because it's done by a lawyer. However, it's like in oil and gas, I look at legal documents all the time. And so, it's all out there is my point. You know what I mean? It's just got an
Exactly.
attorney on it. And, my nephew's an attorney, his wife's an attorney.
Yep.
My sister-in-law's ex-husband was president of the bar association. So, I know some people down here.
Yep. So you're all set. So what I would do is I would just probably do my research and then pick their brain and then bring that information to your resources.
I mean,
That's what I would.
what I would like to do, and this is just me, I know this is our first meeting.
Okay.
Um, Jim's a guy down here that's trying to push some of this stuff, and I've met with one guy that is with my friend. I told you the professor on the structure and how they did it or whatever. The guy is quite older. I don't know if he's still doing it or not. Jim's wanting to work with me real bad because he knows on the oil and gas side, I can bring him, like we just do royalties. And so I can bring him those clients, but I haven't done it because, I brought my family into it. But, if somebody's investing $100,000, for example, and we're buying a deal, I got to make sure that person's got the $100,000 and not just BSing because a lot of people do that, and because I have to have the capital. And so, potentially I'd like to talk to you about that, how we might work together in that aspect. And then on some of this, like the structure on real estate, I took some of my real estate that I had paid for. I leveraged it at a bank. I could get the money at 5.5. Now today's money, it's about 8%. And it's a 20-year note, 5-year arm. But my point is, I took that and invested that in commercial real estate in Charlotte, North Carolina. My brother lives in Charlotte. His best friend does like development, like close to Jaguar Stadium. They're taking, buying parcels, putting them together, and then they tear everything down and build a building or whatever. They don't actually do that, but they partner with people that does. Like right now, they're tearing it all down to do a condominium project, or we bought part of a hotel or whatever. Those deals have been stifled right now. I haven't invested in anything in a few years because COVID came in and killed everything for everybody pretty much. And until these rates come down, that's a different story. Um, Things aren't going to start moving on that aspect. So, like,
Right.
how eventually I could even, keep my real estate, bar against that real estate, okay, and then invest that money in the life insurance product. And if it's paying whatever it's paying, 5, 6, what I know as rates come down, that will come down as well. And then how
Correct.
it builds up the cash value. I mean, I've got several questions wrapped around that. How I could structure this for my grandkids so they'll never have to worry. I wanted, and a lot of people say I don't care once I'm dead and gone. Well, I do, and it's not because I'm trying to create a legacy per se. It's if you could teach people how to fish, they can go fish on their own. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't know, or they take too much risk when things are good right now. And I'm in NVIDIA individually, and of course I'm in the S&P 500 and Berkshire Hathaway and all that. But my point is, uh, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered is the saying I like. And so my point is, with the market like it is right now, like it's it's crazy right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I just believe it's one. I think people talk about different things like this product. This is one avenue. You can make it your whole avenue if you want to, but it's just,
Yeah.
if you have enough money, it's just one thing.
Correct. Yeah. And the great thing about it is the tax advantages that come along with it, right? Is there's no other product that works like this, right? There's nothing else that you can do where you can put your money in, your money can grow. You can take money out and your money still continues to grow. That's what people don't understand about this product.
Yeah, I want to know, I want to learn the numbers on that aspect if I could, because if I could borrow money at 6%, let's say on a piece of real estate, even if it's just paying 4, I have to look at what my effective rate is, or, if I borrow money on it, I get that money tax free. I create a write off because I'm borrowing interest. So that's tax deductible, right? So the way I always equate it in my mind is if I if I pay $50,000 in interest, basically that saves me, 30%, 33%. It depends on what the tax structure is.
Yeah. So you understand about the different types of policies out there, correct? There's a whole life and then there's an IUL.
Well, there's term, there's whole life, but
Yeah.
there's several different whole life policies, like the ones the guys, or one of my really good friends used to sell, like Allianz, and sell variable annuities that doesn't have a downside tied to the S&P, but it's got upside. But it usually pays, if the S&P did 15%, it might pay 12%.
Correct.
But those
Well,
policies have high surrender charges. They
no
charge like
annuities.
7% commission, or they're paid that from the company. And what I see is people that sell that type of insurance is they do a lot of times, in my opinion, what's financially best for their self. So these companies will come out with a policy that's not as good, but maybe they'll pay an 8% commission, because they can. Allianz was one of the biggest back in the day doing that, and all
Still
these
are,
people. Yes.
and they still are, and they still are. They're a juggernaut in the industry. So what you're talking about is an annuity, right? That's an annuity. A whole life product is going to be like companies that we work with are what they call mutual companies, and mutual companies pay dividends to their policy owners, right? So mutual company, whole life, that's where you want to be. You want to
Okay.
receive dividends, right? And these aren't dividends like your investment dividends. These are different dividends, right? And we're talking about these insurance companies haven't missed a payment in 150 years. Okay. So they haven't missed a dividend payment in 150 years. Dividends are about 5 to 6% right now. So you can look to get a return of 5 to 6% guaranteed right now,
And
right?
is that death benefit?
No, that's just on your
Cash?
that's on the cash, right? So the whole point of these plans is, as you saw in that video, is whenever you're doing an IBC strategy, is your death benefit. You want that death benefit to be as low as possible, right? To keep it underneath the 7 pay structure, right? So you want to make sure that that debt benefit is low because look, there's two buckets that are happening here, right? Here's your money is your money's going into two buckets, going to a debt benefit and it's going to cash. That cash is where you want that money to grow, right? If you're looking for growth, you're looking to withdraw or you're looking to take loans. Well, the infinite banking structure is this setup is you want the majority of that money coming towards the cash and just a little bit of that money going towards a debt benefit, right?
Okay, so
Now,
there's usually a percentage allocation that's done.
correct. Yeah, so the size of the debt benefit determines how much cash you can put into the policy, right? The larger the debt benefit, the more cash you can put into this policy, okay? The lower the debt benefit, the least amount of cash you can put in the policy, right? So if someone's doing $1,000 a month, that debt benefit's gonna be different than someone doing $5 grand a month. Or $60,000 a year, or 100 grand up front, or 200,000 up front. That debt benefit's gonna be a lot larger because we need a larger debt benefit in order to put cash in, because that's what protects us against the tax codes of 7702 and 72E from paying taxes. Right? So we have to stay within the framework of the policy, okay? And that framework is our life insurance policy and the amount of money that we put in to the policy. So debt benefit and the amount of premiums that we're putting in. We cannot put too much premium into these suckers because that's gonna cause a MEC, what we talked about, what you heard about, right? A MEC is no longer an insurance policy. The IRS is saying, look, Ron, you're putting way too much money into this sucker, okay? You're using this for outside purposes. You're not utilizing this as a life insurance policy.
Well, you just go get another policy, right?
Or you just go get another policy, yeah. Assuming that you can get approved, you don't have such a large death benefit, right? So you get a life insurance, we get a life insurance policy with a small death benefit to fit the amount of premium that you want to put in. So knowing what you want to put in into the bucket, into the box, that's what we need to know. We need to know kind of how much you want to put in. So that determines what kind of death benefit we're working with, and then we can structure a plan for you based on that.
Now, so
We
is it over are you talking about what I would want to put in based over a 7-year period of time?
No, just in general, like if you wanted to do, there's several ways you can pay a premiums. You could do it annually, you can do it monthly, however you want to set it up. You can also do lump sums as well. So we had a client that we just finished up that wanted 260,000 in, right? And what the rule of thumb is if you have 260,000, is that you're just not going to dump that 260,000 into the policy up front, year one. You're going to spread that out over 4 or 5 years. So think of it like a home that you buy, right? And let's just say, for hypothetical reasons, okay, that you have different floors that you rent out. So you buy this for rental purposes. You've got floor 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so you've got $260,000 that you want to put into the plan. Okay, what this is saying is the government saying, okay, Ron, you can't put the whole 260,000 in. Okay, but what you can do is you can take that 260,000 and you can divide that over the next 5 years. So you can put $52,000 in max per year into this plan. Okay. So year one, you get to rent out floor number 1, year one. Year number 2, you put that $52,000 again, you get to rent out floors number 1 and 2. And so on and so forth. Every single year, you get to put that $52,000 in, and you have access to that floor that you can rent. Okay. And that equals your whole $260,000 investment. And now you're staying within that 7-pay period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're saying it should be paid over a certain period of time, that you shouldn't just dump a whole lump sum into this?
Correct.
Now, what about, I've heard before, let's say you miss a year. Let's say you don't pay year 3, the
Sure.
52,000. Is that
Sure.
an issue?
No, as long as you pay the minimum to keep the policy in force, right? And the minimum is gonna be that death benefit.
Okay, and usually how much, I know it depends on age and all that, but how much
Yeah,
would that be?
so it could be, on this type of policy, the death benefit was, I believe, was like 1,000 or 1,200 a year.
So my point is, why wouldn't you want, if somebody's wanting to make 5 or 6% on his money, because if a
Yep.
client holds his money too long, they could spend it, somebody come in need, they find out he's got that money or whatever. What about if you did 2 policies like that and it was 52,000 and you did it on 2 policies, but then you just paid, or 3 policies or whatever? Is there rules around that? Basically, you're doing the same thing. Like, could I invest in year 1 in 5 different policies? Year 2, the only thing I paid was the death benefit going forward, and I've got 5 policies in place.
Yep, you sure can. And
Is the IRS going to look at that oddly?
no, the insurance, it's up to the insurance company, not the IRS. So the insurance
Okay.
company will take a look more than the IRS. The IRS doesn't get involved until you start putting more money than what you're supposed to be.
So is the insurance company looking at other insurance policies you might have, or do they not have
Correct.
access? They have
No,
access to all that?
correct. Yep. And that's part of the application process, is that you disclose how much coverage you already have.
Okay. And then the death benefit too, like I've got a grandson in dental school. I think he's 24, 23, whatever.
Yep.
My point is his death benefit will be far greater than mine would be, right? Like I could pay the premium for him, and it
Yep.
gives a greater death benefit, which would benefit the trust and the way of doing this greater in the future. Is that right?
Correct.
Because the trust is the beneficiary. The key is to keep it going,
Yeah.
to have everybody buy in. And those that
Correct.
don't buy in, maybe you
They're
don't
not
let
part of
them
the trust.
borrow, they're not a part of it, so they don't get to borrow money.
Yep, you got it. So that's how the Rockefeller set it up. So part of the rules of the trust is that everyone inside the trust must own a life insurance policy. So everyone inside the trust must own a life insurance policy,
That pays
right?
back to the trust.
It pays back to the trust. You got it.
Now, what if they don't, what if they don't pay the money back? They borrow $50,000. They want a car. It's a 6% interest or 5% or whatever it is. They're supposed to pay that back over whatever structure your administrator would set up. If it's 5 years at so and so, and they don't do it, then what?
Yeah, so that would be kind of like the rules of the trust, right? Loaning money, not paying it back, kicked out of the trust, that would just be kind of the rules that you would need to set up with a lawyer in order to, find those crannies that you don't want to happen in the trust, someone depleting the trust and having no anticipation, having no determination to pay back the trust based on the amount that they borrowed. So that's all in the trust, all in the setup, the wording of the trust that you would need to set up with the lawyer. But
Okay.
yeah, for sure, if they're a beneficiary of the trust, they would have access to the trust. And then also you can make sure that the trust is set up where they can't borrow money. The trust is the owner of each policy, okay, not just the beneficiary, but the owner of the policy. So the owner sets the rules of
So they can't
the
borrow money on the cash value of their particular policy.
correct until a certain age, right? So you can set up certain restrictions on that as well. Okay.
So is it the cash out of the trust? I'm trying to understand, like, if I
Yeah.
get one and it's on my grandson, you know, and he's building up cash, is it his own individual cash accumulation that he's building up over time that I set up for him, or is he a part of the whole thing?
Yeah. So here's the thing is the trust has beneficiaries, right? And if we're several generations deep and the trust owns $1 million or has $3 million in the trust, right? So the trust is gonna say, you know, what's one of your grandchild's name?
Alex,
Alex. So the trust says Alex is how old right now?
23.
23 years old. So the trust can say at age 25, okay, is where Alex can start receiving money from the trust, right? Age 25, okay? However, Alex has a parent, has a right? Who's Alex's parent? Mother,
Uh,
father.
Shannon and Chris.
Shannon and Chris. So Shannon and Chris are also part of the trust as well, right? But Shannon and Chris are above the age of 25. But what they can do is they can utilize the money that's inside the trust or borrow from Alex's policy to help pay for college education for Alex. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. So Shannon and Chris, they're above the age of 25. They're adults. They have access to the trust just like Alex does at age 25. Okay. There's $3 million inside the trust. Alex is not of the age, okay, but wants to go to school or wants to start a business. Shannon and Chris can now take money from Alex's policy that he has. Let's say he has, you know, the trust has been paying for Alex since, you know, for 23 years on his policy. So let's just say Alex has, you know, $200,000 cash in his policy. Okay. That's cash. They can take from the policy and pay for his college education.
Now, does that reduce the death benefit?
That does reduce the debt benefit, correct. So anytime you take a loan, okay, loans come from the debt benefit. The loans come from the debt benefit, and that's what makes it tax-free, okay? So when you have a whole life or any type of permanent plan, there's the account value. And that's the amount of money that's in the account. So let's say we've got $200,000, okay? So there's 200 grand in the account, and then there's a debt benefit. And that debt benefit is always going to be more or equal, oh, it's going to be more than the account value. So let's say the debt benefit is 500,000. So if you wanted to take $100,000 loan, the 100,000 would be given to you in advance from the debt benefit. This ensures that the insurance company gets their money.
And does that reduce the account value?
It does not, it reduces the amount of money because that's the amount of money that's available to you, right? So this is the amount available to you now as a loan or withdrawal, right?
Well, then the 400,000 would be growing at, let's say it was 5%, which would be $20,000. Is that correct? If you left it alone?
The debt benefit doesn't grow at 5%. The account value is what grows.
Okay.
So this would continue to grow at 5% or 6%, right? So what we tell people is, look, if you're going to take out a loan, okay, what you do is you move your payments, you stop making that lump sum, the overpayment, and you move it to the minimum payment to pay the insurance. So let's say the payment is, you know, $1,000 a month, just for illustration purposes, right? But the insurance cost is only, you know, $100 a month, is only $100 a year. right? Or $200 a year or $500 a year. Okay. So that means only $100 of the 12,000 a year from the 12,000 is going towards the insurance, right? So instead of paying the 12,000, right? Here we go. 12,000 a year. The cost of insurance is only $100 a year on this child, right? So instead of paying the 12,000 and breaking it down, this 12,000 into an account value and some of it going to pay the insurance, which is this cost over here, okay? What we suggest is you pay the 12,000, but what you do is you make two separate payments, okay? So you have one payment that's going to pay for the insurance cost. So you pay that $100 for insurance, okay? But then you take the remainder, 11,900 a year, and you put that towards the loan. So you're making the same payment, but now you're not putting money, you're not putting the money in to gain into the account value. You're paying back the loan that's necessary. So therefore, that you're not getting the interest charges and all that stuff. And now every 11,900 that you put in, okay, some of that's going to go towards the interest, right? Some goes towards the interest, but then whatever's paid on the principal is going right back into the account value. It goes
Okay.
right back to this account value where now it's going to start growing again.
But you're saying that, does that 500,000 or in this example, the death benefit, does it ever grow?
It grows based on the death benefit. So let's give you an example. Let's just show you an example, right? How about that? I think that's the best way to do it. Let's just show
Okay.
you an example. Put the numbers on the page and you can see an example, okay?
Gotcha.
I'm going to design something real quick, okay? For illustration purposes. All right, did you want to do an illustration, example illustration on a child or someone like yourself?
I'd like to see both, actually.
All right, so let's see, product. Hold on. And you're in Texas.
Correct.
So let's talk about premium. All right, so just for example purposes, you want to do the 12,000 a year for
That's,
23-year-old?
yeah, that's fine.
And I'm assuming we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that annually. We're not
How
gonna
many
do
different carriers do you deal with? And does the deal or the structure they have, does it change very much per insurance company over time? Like,
So we deal with, we're brokers, so we can get we can get contracted with any company.
Right.
But we specialize in just kind of work with 2 or 3 companies, right?
Right.
When it comes to infinite banking, there's only going to be really 2 options that you have that are going to really make infinite banking make sense. And it's because they're not interested in making, they structure themselves for infinite banking. Other companies like Mass Mutual, New York Life, um, Prudential, those insurance companies, they have whole life, but they're not structured for infinite banking. So companies like Lafayette Insurance is structured for infinite banking. Their 98% of their clients are infinite banking clients. So they're structured for infinite banking. Their back offices, everything, their whole structure, they allow us to change the percentage that goes into the death benefit to the amount that goes into your cash. We have 100% control of that while structuring. Other companies don't allow an agent to do that. Another company would be Emeritus. Emeritus is another company that does infinite banking strategies. So your 2 main companies are going to be a Lafayette or going to be Emeritus.
Yeah.
Right now, Emeritus is gonna outperform Lafayette right now. They just came out with their numbers, and Emeritus is pretty aggressive and a lot more aggressive than
But
any
once
company.
you're locked in on a policy, they don't go back and change it, right?
No. That's your contract. Yep. So you have a contract with them. So that policy is your contract.
And I think the main thing to make people feel comfortable too, and I brought it up on that other conversation, was the amount of reserves they have to have, all these
Yeah,
insurance companies. And I think
exactly.
life insurance controls so much, the government's never gonna, life insurance controls the world basically, I think, and people don't know that. So it's
Yeah.
never gonna change with Congress or whatever. They have way too much power.
Yeah, there's way too much money in insurance companies. You got it. Insurance companies are extremely wealthy. And you're right, people don't understand the amount of money insurance companies have. They just don't get it. And I'm glad you do, because that is a conversation that comes up often with people. We made a plan for a client that was just absolutely was amazing, making his money back in 8 years from insurance company, and then on the 9th year just pure profit. And his main concern was, what if the company goes bankrupt? And I was like, I don't think this plan is for you, sir. You just don't understand the plan. um, Life insurance companies, if they're gonna go bankrupt, which they do, which insurance companies do go bankrupt.
The other
uh
insurance companies will come pay it off because they don't
there you
want the
go.
scrutiny of it.
Exactly. They come
That'll
and buy
never
it.
happen with banks because they don't have the reserve structure. I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's almost like a 10-to-1. So if they have $1 million, they can loan out 10, you know, something like that with banks. I mean, they're highly, highly leveraged and people don't understand that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Banks are no comparison to what an insurance company has and what they're capable of doing. um and that's why I tell everyone, look, if you're gonna do a life insurance plan, first you check out the financial rating of that insurance company, and that will tell you everything that you need to know. So we only work with A-rated companies, companies that have more than what they're required to in their reserves. So all these companies are extremely lucrative, uh, and they're financially stable. Not not a lot of debt, a lot of assets, reserves accounts, so you name it, they've got it. All right, so input. year. All right, so I'm gonna do a illustration with Lafayette just because it's gonna be easier than just so you can have an idea of what it looks like. And then if we decide to do business together, we'll spend a few hours, Bentley and I, designing the plans for you. And we'll come up with the best plans. And so let's come here to illustrations and applications. Okay. So what's Alex's last name?
None, N-U-N-N.
Say that again.
None, N-U-N-N.
Okay, and date of birth
I'm not positive.
or age is 23, right?
Right,
And male, I'm assuming,
correct.
in Texas. All right, whole life product, here we go. All right, so Patriots. Okay, here we go. Let's come to solves. We're gonna do base. Total premium is gonna be 12,000. Base, we're gonna just start it at a 40, 60% blend. How many years do you think you'd put that 12,000 into the plan? 7, 10, 15, 20, 30
Let's say you
years?
did it 7.
7 years? Mhm. Certified exchange.
Now, under a certain age, do they have to get physical and all that?
Uh, depends on how much insurance they're applying for. But the majority, like this company won't do any blood and urine on majority of people, depending on what happens in the
But when somebody's going to be a high net worth earner, or they get to a point where, let's say he's practicing and he's making several $100,000 a year, his death benefit on a policy can go up as well because you're covering that income, right? He could pay more and do more because he can show that he needs the money. Isn't that right, or am I not thinking right?
No, it's based on health. So it's got nothing to do with money with an insurance company. They want to make sure you're healthy because at the end of the day, they have to pay out a death benefit.
Got it.
So they want to make sure you're healthy, right? This particular example, this Patriot, which is going to be the best one, this is paid until age. Things about when it comes to life insurance, like you can stop paying into this, but these are paid until age 95, these Patriots. So this is just an example, okay? Just showing you an example, all right?
What do you mean? What do you mean it's paid?
This, you had said 7 years, right?
Right.
So typically you'd want to do in a whole life policy, you want to do a 10-year pay.
Okay.
You're looking at like 10 years. But if I was to put, it's gonna take me a while to design that. So I don't want to sit here, for 20 minutes designing a policy for you, for an
Well, I mean,
example.
you can say 10 years or whatever. I mean, whatever makes it easier for you.
Yeah, so we'll just do the 7 years at 12,000. As you can see here, it's 12,000, and these would be the numbers here, right? Um, so you're looking at, in this example, this is a 40-60% blend. Okay, so 40% is going towards insurance, and that's why we have this death benefit here at 259. Okay, and the majority goes to the cash, okay, in the account. Okay, so when we talk about doing a loan, okay, the loans come from this debt benefit here,
Okay.
okay? And you can see that the debt benefit goes up whenever this account value goes up, the debt benefit rises as well.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I do.
And in the later years, you can start seeing that the debt benefit, okay, doesn't start rising too much because it's staying down with the cash value, okay, and keeping a distance within that 7 pay to make sure that it's still a life insurance plan, okay? So this plan, this example, okay, you're going to see that at age 121 years old, you basically paid your death benefit,
Yeah, but you've
right?
only contributed $81,000 pretty much plus your premium, right?
Correct. You got it. You got it. Okay.
So if
So,
people keep on, your selling point would be if people keep on contributing that $12,000 every year, I mean, your death benefit would be insane
correct. Yep. It just
because
keeps
of
rising.
compounding.
Correct. You got it. Right. Now, the death benefit's great. Okay. But what's even better is the ability to take cash out of these plans, the amount of money that's available to you to go out and do what you've done and go build some assets. Right. So now you've got income producing assets, okay, from the money borrowed from these plans. And that's where the true value comes
Okay,
in.
so let's say we're at year 7, you've taken no loans until year 7, and you want 100 grand. Can you do that?
Well, year 7, you're looking at only having $81,000 in the plan, so you wouldn't be able to take out 100 grand from the plan.
So could you take out a percentage of the 81 and then that goes against the death benefit, right?
Yeah. So you only could take out upwards of, rule of thumb is 90% of what this number is here.
Okay.
Yep, that's the rule of thumb. So then your policy doesn't lapse.
But when you're paying the money back, you're paying it back with interest
And it comes right back in here.
and it comes right back to your cash as well as your death benefit, right? Or wrong?
Correct, you got it. So let's just come here. Let's come to loans and withdrawals. And let's say we're gonna take a loan out. Year 7, let's say we take 50 grand. What happened to that? There we go. So we take 50 grand year 7. Let's say we pay back that loan 5 years later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Would that be reasonable to say pay
Sure.
it back 5 years later?
Sure.
So we're gonna repay the loan, 50,000. Keep that back so we're not putting more money in there. Okay. And you do dividends to pay loans. Okay. And then what we do here is the loan interest. So whenever you take a loan out, you can have the loan interest added to the loan, which is totally crazy. Okay. Because it's just going to compound against you. Or you can repay it annually. Okay. So the the interest on the loan will be taken from the cash value from the policy every single year. So at least you're just keeping up with principal, right? So
That's
you're
if you
keeping up.
made no payments, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you make no payments. It's the loan interest is going to be taken from the cash value every single year. So this example, year 7, we took 50,000 out, and year 12, we put 50,000 back in. Okay,
And basically you paid no interest.
correct, yeah, because you're paying it back annually. There we go.
Oh, you're saying you're paying your interest annually. So
Yeah, you pay,
if it was 5%, you pay $2,500 plus the policy premium every year.
correct. Yeah, so they're just gonna take the cash value from the net cash value that you see here. They're gonna take the interest from the net cash value right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this shows you the example, okay? This cumulative premium, 84,000, annual dividend, right here, the increase in net cash value. This is net cash value right here. So this is the total cash value. Okay, so you took out a loan here, and then year 12 is where you put that money back in. So you can see it goes from $97,000 to 166,000. You see that?
I do.
Okay, so the money that you put in goes right back into the policy, and you can see that big jump in the policy and how that 50,000 just went right back into the net cash value. And then you can also see what happens to that death benefit as well. It goes from 409,000 to 495 because you put 50 grand in.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Are you following this now? Is this kind of making a little bit more sense for you?
But in this scenario, you're paying the policy and you're paying the interest. You don't have to pay the interest. That would reduce your cash value, which would reduce your death benefit as well.
Correct.
So you could just pay the 50,000 back or not ever pay it back.
Yeah, if you don't pay it back, if you don't ever pay it back, then that's fine. They're just gonna take the death benefit. They're gonna take that from the death benefit as well as the interest that accrues in the account.
Got it.
So you're better off paying the interest annually from the cash value.
Got it.
So therefore, it's not compounding against you. Because that
So,
interest will kill you if it compounds against you in these policies.
okay.
And that's what people don't tell you. They tell you, oh, you never have to pay it back. But if you don't, your policy is eventually going to lapse because there's not enough money going into the policy. If you have a $50,000 loan, that's $2,500 a year, right?
Right.
That compounds against you for the next 20 years. It's a problem. Okay, so you gotta, we always tell people to pay it back, and you can take as long as you want, but we recommend anywhere between a 5 to 10 year period of paying it back.
Well, if you set it up just like a loan that you paid back and it just came out of your checking account, like you borrow a car, instead of borrowing from the bank, you borrow from yourself and you pay it back and you pay it back monthly. You could do that.
You got it.
And then it compounds even faster because you're paying it back faster.
Correct. You're paying it back monthly, and then also you're paying back interest. So you could say, I'm gonna pay back 7% interest. I'm gonna, if I go to the dealership right now, they're gonna give me a 7%, 5 to 7%, right? So why don't I take 7% and pay the insurance company 5 and give myself 2, right? And now
So
you're
when you
making
have a
money.
family and there's like if I set up a trust, would somebody like Chris and Shannon set up their own trust and would a person like Alex be able to get loans off his parents' family trust if they so choose, as well as mine? Does one trust own the other? Like if you're trying to progress
Yeah.
and try help the whole family grow, so to speak, because certain people are going to make way more money than others.
Yeah, exactly. So their trust is gonna look a little bit different, right? So that would be an encouraging factor to have them own their own trust, right? And yeah, a trust can own another trust, right? It's another person, right? It's got its own social security number, right? And and yeah, you would just put that in the bylaws of the trust, right? And you know what people need to understand is that when someone sets themselves up financially and people start receiving benefits and start seeing the success that happens within a properly structured family, um, others are going to want to set themselves up just like that too, right? If you know, if you see two or three generations getting trust fund babies, you know, people are going to want to set themselves up like that too. And that's what the Rockefellers have going on. It's just that there's just so much success. There's just so much money in that system that they have, that, you know, even if they had a couple screw ups, you know, that trust is still, you know, it's still going to survive,
Well, I
right?
think what people, if you study, I like looking at stuff in the Gilded Age. If you study the rich during the Gilded Age, like American Dynasty is one show that talks about him, Chase, you know, J.P. Morgan, Vanderbilt, so forth. All these guys, including like the steel Andrew Carnegie, for example, it's almost like these people were robber barons, and then they come in and they're going to be the biggest philanthropists you ever seen in your life, right? So Rockefeller gave away a ton of his money,
Yep.
you know, and I can't remember how much was left when he died, but you know, maybe $1 billion or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember, but he's built it up to what it is today. The trust is today. And I have an app on my phone too that shows different people's wealth and if it's growing or not growing. The Rockefellers is growing all the time. Some of them are stagnant because their assets are not really making anything anymore.
Right.
It's really interesting to me, you know?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and it's all from proper structure. And majority of everyone thinks that the Rockefellers made money in business. They didn't make the Rockefellers didn't make money in business. They made money from the structure of their finances, from the trust. That's how they made all their money. The first generation made money in business, but the rest of the generations have made money through a trust, through the corporation, through the structure, the financial structure.
Right.
That's where the money is paid. People have died, insurance companies have paid millions. It's just
Well,
how,
the Rockefellers don't own any oil today at all.
nothing.
Um, yeah, not any at all. And you know, they basically he was one of the first monopolizers of how oil was refined. He controlled 90% of it, so he could control the prices, you know?
Yep. Isn't that crazy? Right? Everyone thinks that that's where they're at, and it's not. That's not how they've kept that Rockefeller name. That's not how it's because of the structure. It's because of the financial structure that's impenetrable.
Well, I
Uh,
agree because if you didn't earn the money and you had inherited $10 million, you would tend to go buy a new house, brand new car, you know, all these stuff. You didn't earn the money, so easy come, easy go is the way I see it in life. And what happens is that, or somebody takes a risk on a business. And when they
yep.
do that, then they lose it, then it's gone, or they leverage too much because we're inherently greedy by nature. If it works
Yep.
one time, it'll definitely work again. Well, that's not true. There's no absolute but death and taxes.
Yep.
But he did the structure where it continued to pay. I mean, pretty brilliant when you think about it.
Yep. It's the smartest structure out there. That's why it's called the waterfall of wealth.
So how did you get into this?
Oh, I've been doing this 21 years now. I've been insurance license series 6, 63, and 26 licensed now for 21 years. And I was still wet behind the ears at 19, got introduced to the life insurance industry. And I was captive with one insurance company for 19 years and then went independent. And now I'm independent and, you know, before I was just selling one type of product and cookie cutter approach and was a great business model, but my passion is helping people, you know, financially and exposing them to ideas that they don't think that are available to them or didn't ever know existed. And that's where my passion comes in. It's not just, you know, giving people a term product. That's not really what interests me. What drives me each and every day is having conversations like this, right? And being able to, uh, you know, bring people to an understanding of wealth that is for the Rockefellers. It's for the Vanderbilts. It's for, you know, people that we can't touch, that we don't have access to. And my parents didn't know this information. No clue.
But
They
anything
don't.
will grow, even if you. So let's say it's $100 a month or whatever. You know, in theory, you could be a millionaire depending on, you know, if it's 8 to 10% return. But my point is, if you look at generations, like if you look at the way money compounds, that's where the real money's made. Is you have to have time on your side. And so if a structure's put in place where it goes from the one and they have to be in the structure, then that mitigates your risk.
Yep. What I've seen over the past 20 years of sitting down with families is that parents that financially structure themselves correctly, that they get life insurance and they have a trust and they have you know, they have things set up for their kids. The kids follow the footsteps, you know. Uh, I've got I've got friends that have received money from their parents dying, and the first thing they want to do is they want to get a life insurance policy because they know the benefits. They received a $500,000 check, you know, from their parents dying. You know, they're like, this works, man. Like, I want to do the same thing for my kids. And you know, people that have trust set up and you know that are trust fund babies. You know, the first thing they want to know is, you know, how did Grandpa set that up? How did Dad set that up? How can I leave something behind, right? So you're definitely making the right decisions in doing this, and you know, we definitely want to be that resource for you and help you in any way. And I have a bunch of resources through the years, and you know, anybody that you know that you need, you know, we can find them, and and I encourage everyone to pick their brains, you know, pick their brains and go out and figure it out by yourself if that's what you want to do. If you have people in place, then you know, ask the right questions, get the information you need, and move it to move it to, you know, whoever you can trust. So you know, I recommend setting up that structure. Especially, you know, your real estate conglomerate that you have is structuring that to protect yourself. Number one. Number two, setting up a trust. Number three, getting insurance. You know, to be able to pass down that generational wealth, or you know, leaving something behind, teaching your grandchildren how to fish, giving them a step up in life. You know, there's nothing like it. You know, I wish I had someone like you in my life. You know, I really do. And you know, the great thing is I get to be that person. You know, I get to leave, you know, what you same similar to you. I get to leave behind you know, not just, you know, resources. I get to read behind an instruction manual, you know, on how to do it, you know, and that's the key. A lot of kids out here, they're handed stuff, and you know, they don't go nowhere. They just spend a whole bunch of money. They have no idea how to compound their money, how to turn $1 into $10. They don't even think it's you know, it's possible. They got to rob somebody or do something, you know, unethical in order to do it. But you know, I learned at a very young age, just with time and consistency is what you need. You need time and you need consistency. And if you have time on your side and you're consistent, you're going to win the game. And that's what it's all about. You know, dollar cost averaging. I learned that at a very young age. I opened up my first mutual fund when I was 19 years old. It was $200 a month, and I still have that puppy. You know, B shares. You You remember B shares?
Sure.
Buying mutual funds, B shares with no management fee at all, right? Put money into a mutual fund, and you don't have to pay the guy that sold it to you, right? Those don't exist anymore, and I still have that. So I'm grateful for the information that I was taught at such a young age, and my parents told me not to do it, and I followed my gut, and thank God I did. So it's people like you, people that were successful and I looked up to. The gentleman that I looked up to that opened up my Roth IRA at 19, he was making 300 grand a year. And I knew nobody that made 300 grand a year at 19. That was the only guy, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to this guy. And I opened up my first IRA at 19 with $200 a month. Didn't change my life. That, $200 wasn't going to change my life, but it was the consistency. It was the $200 every single month. And then I said, wow, look at the amount of money I have. What if I do 400, right? What if I increase it to $400? What could happen? And just the amount of time now, it's been, well, a long time, 20 years, 21 years, long time. So, I encourage everyone, time and consistency, just like you, if you got the time. And obviously the consistency is what's important. And that's what's important in these plans, is the consistency. You need to have consistency in these plans, because it's not an investment. You're not going to get 20% rate of return tomorrow, and you're not going to double your money tomorrow. It could take, 7, 8, 10 years to get even on these plans. But the value is the time. Is once you're even, now it's all profit after that. And if you know how to utilize and manipulate these plans, and you know how to take money from it and buy an asset with it, well, now you have a bank, you have a literal bank that is allowing you to fund all of these assets. And then when you want to take money out, right? When you want to liquidate this asset, now you have a place to dump it in, right? While you're looking for your next deal, right? And it's just amazing what you're able to do to these things. And my mentors have, bought buildings, commercial buildings, have bought, real estate like you, and, developers, and all different things. I got another guy that does similar to what that gentleman does on that video that you sent us, but he just does it on a bigger level, because he's just got more money. And that's being a bank. That's being a bank. That's saying, okay, I'm gonna utilize my policy, my cash, to then lend it to other people. I'm gonna be a bank
Yeah, that makes
myself.
sense. Does the emeritus policy, does it make a big difference? Like when you comparing the two, because 1 or 2% compounded makes a big difference over time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're looking at emeritus being the lowest loan interest rate, and also having the highest highest dividend. So it does make a difference. Yeah. As of this year, 2025, it makes a difference. Yeah.
Now,
Emeritus
does
is
it adjust over time? Like, I know the interest rates will adjust over time, but like my brother-in-law is in a life insurance contract, and it's paying 6% on the death benefit. Basically, it's a variable product. But my point is, she said, we don't even offer these plans anymore, kind of like your mutual fund. Do you get locked in on some of these plans, what you have? And even if they change the plan, you'll still have that structure?
Yeah. So variable life variable life is a touchy subject. That's a tough product, because it is actually invested into the market. That's a variable product. So you would need a securities license to sell that to somebody. But yeah, you get locked into these policies. So interest rates change all the time, and companies change their dividend rates, but the dividend rate hasn't changed in 12 years. It's been 5%, 5.5% for the last 12 years.
Well,
it's
let's
gonna
say
take
you
this.
have somebody that's worth $15 million. It's over
Yeah,
the amount you can pass to your heirs of, let's say, 10 million, 12 million, whatever the number is now.
yeah,
You can fund a policy, can't you? Like if you plan ahead, I think it's over the 7 years, the MEC, like you could invest like 500,000 a year in order really rich people buy life insurance to get around to move money where it passes tax free. Am I correct?
right. Yeah, because now what you're buying this for is you're buying this for the debt, you're buying this to dump money in to raise that death benefit, and then when you die, that money's going to your family tax free. And that's how it's done. And remember, it takes, about 7 to 10 years for you to break even on these policies. But if you were to die before then, your family's going to receive a death benefit, which is more than what you put in.
But you're not doing it for that purpose. If you're investing $5 million over 7 years, you're doing it for strictly basically the death benefit. You're not doing it for growth perspective. You're buying it for preservation of capital so you don't have to pay whatever because back in the day, what was it? Some, what do they call it? Estate taxes or whatever were like 50%.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll take half. Yeah. Yeah, they take half. Yeah, the government takes half, and that's what the rich use these policies for. They use them for transfer of wealth. So we've got clients that do, you know, a lot of money into these policies up front. They'll spread it out, and they'll make sure that this money gets transferred without having to pay taxation on it. Because once it gets transferred to an heir, the government's going to want their money first, and it also protects against creditors as well.
Right.
Insurance protects against creditors. So, if there's any type of creditor looking for that deceased person, they get access to the assets first, right? Credits need to be paid first, right? Government creditors, then you,
Right.
right? But insurance goes directly to that beneficiary, has nothing to do with the creditors, so they get that money free and clear,
Got it.
right? And that's the beauty about these plans. But the thing is that you got to qualify, right? Not everyone qualifies.
Right.
You got to be in health. So these are decisions that people need to make early on in life. You know, uh, you know, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people wait till they're later, and they're like, whoa, I'm like 75 years old, I'm turning, gonna be 80, and I'm worried about my situation now, right? Uh, but by then it might be too late, right? We might be, might have
That's true,
some,
but you can always buy it on somebody else's life. Maybe they're 50, 60.
you got it.
Right.
You could find out a kid, right? That you could dump that money into your kid's policy. You got it.
Okay. You explained everything very well. I'm definitely extremely interested. I think you can see I've put in time doing this.
Yep.
Um, we're studying it. I will be back in touch. I'm probably not going to do anything, of course, today, but I do want to get some structure.
Yeah. It takes time too. First we have to understand what you want to put in, and then it's going to take Bentley and I a good day and a half to actually structure these plans correctly and maximize them based on what you want to achieve. And then after we structure them, we can then, reach back out and say, hey, we've got the plans ready. Let's sit down, let's go over these plans, and then we can get your 2 cents on them, and we'll create a couple different scenarios, and we'll present those scenarios for you, like scenario A, scenario B, and then you choose which one's best for you. And if we need to make any tweaks, we can make tweaks. But
Okay.
the foundation of the structure is what takes a little bit. So we'll need to kind of, figure out what you want to put in, and then we're gonna need about a day to probably 3 or 4 days to kind of structure the plan.
Fair enough. Thanks for your
Okay?
time today, Corey.
Welcome. Anything else I can do for you, let us know. Here to help. And we can always talk about business too. I know that you had mentioned that, a couple business ideas, and I've been doing this for a long time, and this is, for me, this is where my time and attention come in. So, I don't like to stray off different paths, but, I'm always interested in learning new things and learning new ways to make money. Always looking to partner with good people as well. And you did mention that you did have a grandson or someone that's working with ADT as well. So if you wanted to talk about, this and the oil and the gas and all that good stuff, I'm open for that conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, it's a lot of it is in life who you trust, who do you want to go down the journey with.
Right.
And I'm sitting here today because I answered a webinar on some marketing stuff, and then his friend mentioned Bentley, and then we got on the phone and I knew some about it, and all that. So what I'm trying to do in the other, and eventually I would want to talk to you about, because you're very financially astute, it's where you take Roth money, and what you do is like on those buildings, or those commercial deals that my brother's best friend did. I think I've got 250 in that overall, several different deals, right? Some of it I moved over from Fidelity Investments. I moved over like $50,000 or $60,000 into Pacific Premier Trust, which they turned and made the investment. I want to kind of do the same thing structurally with oil and gas, because we could set this up where we're doing royalties, and the royalties pay you every month. Okay, so if we could buy them out of the Roth or through Pacific Premier Trust or whatever, and I know there has to be certain rules, like I would think you couldn't, and I haven't totally checked into it, but where you wouldn't buy things too cheap, so to speak. Like a lot of these billionaires, they are able to buy companies before they ever go public. So when they do that and they buy them in their Roth, that's why some of these people have billions of dollars now in their Roth, because of that structure. In the oil and gas, the stuff we're buying is in the Permian Basin. It's the largest oil reserve in this country. And one well package I'm invested in, it was 356,000 barrels last month. And that's only our third big check. They drilled 19 wells. So these aren't stripper wells or wells you're trying to take from 2 barrels to 3 barrels, and so most of them are in that area. And so what I do for them is basically I scrape the data on these counties. I set up a programmer in India, and basically he programs to scrape these counties for me, and then I take that data and put it in a spreadsheet, and then I have a program I can check against. It's called Mineral Holders. And basically it'll tell me if you own minerals in Texas, it tells me that's paying. It tells me what you own. In Eddy County, which is in New Mexico, there's a lot that's kind of the Permian as well. In those particular, or that state, there's not a database that you pay property taxes like we do here. Here in Texas, you pay property taxes on your minerals and you pay it on your houses and all that, and it's insanely expensive. It's about 2.6% on real estate. It's about 2.6% of the value of the real estate. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of idea of what I'm thinking about structuring there, how we might do some of that, because I do think Roth is an excellent vehicle, and there's other ways where you move IRA money, go ahead and pay the taxes on the Roth, and with Trump, we're probably going to look at some of the lowest taxes ever. I think that's where we're heading right now. I think we're going to go through some pain, not getting into politics, but just like right now, what he's doing with the Mexico and Canada, I mean, all this is going to back off, and it's going to be really good for the market. So to me, it's just buying opportunity. It's not going to totally stick long term, but you have to go through pain before you get the gain, you know?
Right.
So
Yep.
anyway, that gives you an idea of what I do there. And real estate to me is too expensive unless I find a deal or a flip deal. It's just it's too hard to leverage and make money off of it. And I'm at a different time in my life. I'm not after making $200 a month on a deal and building up equity, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but we'll
yeah, it's
definitely
tough.
be back in touch.
Yeah, great. Would love to conversate with your grandson as well about opportunities with his life insurance license. You said he was licensed too, right?
Yeah, what he did is he went when he got out of school. He was going to go to work for a company, and then they said, "Well, you've got to." I guess he didn't check it out like a lot of young people don't. You got to buy your leads, and you got to do this, right? And he is so smart. And um, I mean, I know a lot of people say that, but he's just one of these kids that's gifted in that manner. Like he was in the top three in the sales in the region his first month. I mean, to be able to do that. And so he's able to talk to people and read people and all that. And so, yeah, I'd like to have that conversation. And then, it might be some with this Jim and what he's doing between me and you. I just think that trust is too expensive. And I can get a copy of it because my brother did it. So,
Yep.
I don't know what makes it so, they say, well, this is different, that's different. Some of it could be a little bit different wording, but anything can be challenged in the court of law if they challenge it or not. You know, the other thing on some of this is protecting yourself. We don't know what it's going to cost one day to go into a retirement home or whatever, and you're protecting those assets. Like if you have a small estate, only worth 100 to 150,000. Well, now the trust owns it. You could qualify just like, not that you would, but you could qualify just like somebody else would for nursing home care, right? Because
Yeah, because you
you
don't
don't
need.
have to sit there and spend down your $100,000 before you can get help because basically you're in the same position as the other person. But you've got to plan ahead long enough or they'll, I think over time nursing homes are going to go or the government's going to go more and more after people with assets because they're going to have to pay too much, you know?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people are struggling with that. We do an excellent program with long-term care using whole life. So we typically take someone's net worth, take 10% of their net worth and put it into a whole life, like cash net worth, and put it into a whole life, and then let that grow into a whole life policy, and only put that into like a long-term care rider. So it's strictly used for long-term care. So if they ever get sick, that money will compound and be available for them for
And then
long-term
if you
care.
don't use it, it's still there in the end, right?
Yeah, it's a
So
death
like
benefit.
mom and dad did a long-term care policy. So did my brother-in-law. My
Yep.
wife's older than me. My brother-in-law is 84 years old. He paid a limited amount on his long-term care. And supposedly I think he can use it on one but not the other or whatever. Mom and dad basically use theirs and theirs is good for 3 years and it pays 100 a day per person. But when dad died a year ago, he'd been in the, you have to go 90 days before you can even qualify. And then you got to get the doctor to write all this. So it could be 4 or 5 months before you get a dollar. Um, but mom's still getting the $3,100 and she gets it for 36 months. So I've heard about that other structure you're talking about. Basically, you're it's kind of like Social Security. You get that's for the that's for everybody basically. For example, if you die and you're 67 years old or whatever, you get nothing basically. Your spouse might get it, but if you're not married, all that goes to the fund to fund everybody else basically.
Yep, goes right back in. Yep. But this is attached to a whole life policy, so it is yours and there is a death benefit. So
Okay.
it does it pays out to your beneficiaries.
Okay.
So, yeah, a little bit different than a long-term care policy. This just has a long-term care rider that covers long-term care illnesses.
But I believe a lot of long-term care policies you can't even get anymore. Like they've done away with them.
Yeah, they're pretty much obsolete, but there are some companies, I think John Hancock still does them. They're one of the originators, but yeah, long-term care riders is where it's at, and then also life insurance offers terminal illness, chronic illness, critical illnesses as well. So
Gotcha.
now you can take out 70 upwards of 100% of your death benefit to take care of a chronic, critical, or terminal illness.
Gotcha.
Crucial, crucial, because a lot of people go bankrupt based on being sick.
All right.
So just the wealth of things that we have, Ron, I enjoyed our conversation today. Look forward to future conversations with you.
Agreed.
I encourage you to go in that website that I put in the chat, corporatedirect.com, and take a look at the way this particular lawyer structures real estate companies,
Okay.
real properties. And you give them a call and you schedule a consultation. So free 15-minute consultation you can schedule with them and pick their brain
Okay.
about different strategies. I would read up first, get the information, get the basics, come up with some questions, and then I'd schedule that 15-minute consultation to give for free.
Okay.
Some time.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks again.
All right. No
All
problem,
right.
Ron. Hope you the best.
All right. Bye-bye.